Okay, good evening, everyone. Meeting is now called to order. Public portion of the meeting will begin. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, business administrator / board secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on a bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Can I please have a roll call?
Mr. Carr,
Here.
Mr. Clavijo,
Here.
Ms. Goff,
Here.
Mr. Palouse,
Here.
Mr. Reicher,
Here.
Ms. Sanford,
Here.
Mr. Totaro,
Here.
Mr. Turco,
Here.
Mr. Doyle.
Here. Would everyone please rise and join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America.
And to the
the
republic
which
stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question during the public portion of the meeting, you may submit the question by accessing the Q&A feature on the bottom of the Zoom screen, or you may submit a question via our Board of Education email address at Hawthorne, BOE, @hawthorne.k12.nj.us, which is available on our district website. When submitting questions via Zoom or email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and email address, followed by your question. We will do our very best to answer all questions in the order in which they are received. If for some reason we are unable to answer your question, someone from the district will respond using the email address you've provided. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. All right, that being said, public be heard on agenda items only. All right, I don't see anything on the Q&A yet. Mr. Sprito, we have any emails?
No, not at this time.
All right, we'll give it a few more seconds. All right, I still don't see anything in our Q&A or chat. Mr. Sprito, one last check.
Nothing in the email right now.
All right, very good. We will move on to the approval of minutes for the October 20th, 2020 regular meeting, public and private. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
Second.
Clavijo.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, we're going to move right along to our student council representative, Miss Allison Perini. Go right ahead, please.
Hi, I just want to preface this by saying I did write this report like a couple days ago, so I do apologize if any information is slightly altered due to our new shutdown that we're moving into. But with that being said, good evening, everyone. The month of November has been interesting to say the least, but even given the district-wide 2-week shutdown, HHS has managed to remain a place of active student engagement throughout adapted resources and activities. Whether remote, in school, or in quarantine, the high school library remains open and active. The 24/7 library portals include the library website, virtual interactive library classroom, and the library Google Classroom. Students and faculty continue to enjoy access to digital books and magazines, as well as online gatherings for book talks, workshops, stress relief activities, and lunchtime chats. The library's website page specifically for parents and guardians continues to be updated weekly, offering tutorials for online learning, sources of digital materials, HHS news, library portals, and more. Additionally, the high school library has partnered with the HHS PTO to share this information through their social media pages. All of this information and more can be accessed by the board and to the public through the library webpage found under departments on the high school website. The library has distributed all teachers valuable resources throughout the election period to build critical thinking skills in digital literacy when evaluating news and social media information. Additionally, continuing its Year of Diversity celebration, in November, the library features books, activities, and announcements highlighting Native American Heritage Month. In Bears sports news, despite the 2-week shutdown, our fall teams continue to impress and add to our winning tradition. Tennis finished up another successful season in October before the shutdown, and they look forward to a bright future. Boys soccer is finishing up their season and played in the state tournament this past Saturday at Lakeland. Football has won a share of the division championship and will conclude their season with a home game this Thursday night, tentatively scheduled at 6 p.m. against Garfield. The HHS would like to congratulate the girls soccer team, who has also continued their massive success this season and officially became the undefeated league champs as of last night. They will be home for their first state game on Wednesday at 4 and are seeded second in their region for the tournament. The Student Council has had a massively successful restock of the school store this past week and looks to continue this trend as the student body proudly purchases and sports HHS apparel. Some new staple items which are selling quickly include black jogger-style sweatpants and comfy gray long sleeves. Students and staff are welcome and encouraged to purchase any of our merch after school, supporting our student council and proudly repping our school's bearwear. Clubs at HHS have also adapted to our hybrid and virtual schedule, hosting online meetings after school for all members and developing creative proposals promoting activity and inclusivity, all while abiding by the virtual model. The Peer Leaders Club members, led by mentors Ms. Clifford and Mr. Corvo, recently attended a virtual teen summit via Instagram Live, where they were able to learn about positive mental health outlets and began preparation for their PSA project addressing mental health and substance abuse prevention. The Share Club, led by new mentor Ms. Peen, kicked off November with an apparel sale and looks to spread their message of responsibility throughout November with a food drive and other volunteer opportunities around our community in the near future. Several other clubs at HHS have continued to meet throughout November virtually and look forward to continuing this trend. That will do it for our HHS November recap. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Allison. Great job. All right, superintendent's report, Mr. Spirito.
Thank you. Good job, Ally. And I would say your report was pretty well updated. So good job. I know there's a lot of changes in the last day or so. So well done. Just to comment on a couple of things that Ally shared, I can tell you that I've purchased some new merchandise from the school store. Got a pair of sweatpants for myself and a long sleeve t-shirt or long sleeve shirt. Some great stuff there. So if you get a chance and you're interested, definitely encourage you to visit the school store and purchase some new material or new merchandise. And I'm going to talk about sports in just a second, but let me just start with a couple of things. First, I want to just thank all of our community members, teachers, everyone who participated in our Governor Educator of the Year program. We received numerous nominations for teachers and education services professionals. And again, thanks to all those who participated. This process now moves forward, and there'll be an internal, the way the process works is we receive those nominations. There'll be a committee of teachers and administrators who will vote on the nominees, and then we will name our teachers of the year. I do want to just mention that unfortunately, due to COVID and last spring, we were unable to recognize last year's Governor Educator of the Year recipients. So I'm hopeful that, and I've communicated this with our teachers, our winners from last year, and I reached out to them earlier this year and apologized that we haven't been able to formally recognize them. But I did mention to them that my hope would be that this spring we could recognize this year's winners along with last year's winners all together. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that because they do all deserve this public recognition at our board meeting, hopefully in the spring. So again, thanks to everyone who participated. Also want to thank quickly, and we're going to talk about disclosure in just a moment, but I want to thank our faculty, our staff, our students, and our parents for their cooperation and understanding during this extremely challenging time for all of us. And I say all of us because it includes myself, our administrative team, our teachers, our custodians, I mean, everyone in our district, as well as our parents and our students. It's been a challenging time for all of us. You know, obviously, we just notified our families that we're going to be closed for a period of time here. And again, I'm going to get into a little more specifics as to why. But please know that, you know, look, our goal from day one was to get our kids into our buildings. And we know how important that is. I know as a parent, as well as a superintendent, how important that is. But there's just been some factors recently that have caused us to make this decision to close once again. And again, I'm going to get into more specifics in a second. I will also share that it's been a challenge for us because we haven't received a lot of guidance from the Department of Health. And, you know, it's just, they're dealing with a lot of cases and the increase in cases as well. So we're doing the best that we can to provide and ensure that we have a safe environment for everybody involved. And again, I'll get more into the details of that in a second. I do want to congratulate, as Allie did and appropriately did, congratulate all of our fall sports teams. You know, again, I congratulate them not just on their success, but the fact that they were able to participate and do it in a safe way this fall. You know, from our tennis team to our boys soccer team, our girls soccer team, and our football team, you know, I congratulate all of them. Our tennis team and boys soccer team at this point have concluded their seasons. Our girls soccer team and football team are still going. I know there were some questions from parents in regard to why we would allow them to continue, even though we will be closed as of Thursday. And I'll share with you that, you know, number one, I think it's appropriate to allow them to continue as they will all be finishing this week, regardless of what happens, win or lose. And I think that it's been a challenge for our student athletes all fall season. And I'm proud that we've been able to provide them with that experience, even though it wasn't exactly as it's been in the past. At least they've had an opportunity to participate. And I think it's only fair to our student athletes and especially to our seniors to be able to finish out those seasons. So I just will say that is why we're allowing them to finish. I can share that the football team will be finishing, as Allie mentioned, on Thursday night with their game against Garfield. They will be completing their season. Our girls soccer team has a game, a playoff game on Wednesday evening. If they win that game, they'll be playing on Friday evening. And the last possible game, if they win again on Friday, would probably be on Sunday, and then they would conclude their season. So I wish them luck as they finish out their seasons and just congratulate them on a successful fall season in general. I want to just briefly mention and thank Ms. Weger, the head of our guidance department, for all that she has done in creating some a new wellness newsletter, as well as our Wellness Wednesday program. All this information is on our Restart and Recovery page on our district website. I would encourage you to visit. There's a lot of great resources there. There's some new, she's just started with the Wellness Wednesdays, which include videos from some of our guidance staff with just some simple activities that you can do to help relieve stress and deal with the challenges and maybe some of the anxiety that you're facing at this time right now with all that's going on. So I want to thank Ms. Weger and all the guidance department for what they're working on. And I will also tell you that, we have been in discussions and will continue to discuss possible programs as we move forward. And that will include things that we can do to support people while we're during this remote time. And we're even talking about possible programs and events and things that we can do for families, not just students, but parents as well, over the holidays and as we into the new year. So stay tuned to that Restart and Recovery page for more information. But again, I want to thank Ms. Weger for all that she's done in the area of mental health and wellness for our students, our staff, and our families. I want to just give everyone an update on our diversity committee. So Dr. Trebone and I met with Ashley Lipscomb from the Institute for Anti-Racist Education this afternoon. We had another productive meeting with Ashley. Excited about our continued work together. Our next meeting with our committee will be on December 10th. And I emailed the committee earlier today to inform them. I will be sharing an agenda with the committee in the days to come. We're working on that together with Ashley of what that next meeting will look like. I also want to welcome, we've added some teachers to our committee. It's Marisa Fusaro at the high school, Melissa Lacasio from Lincoln Middle School, and Brianna Dockeray from our elementary school. So we have a representative from every level. And I'd also like to welcome Mr. Michael Stracco, who's the chairman of the Borough's Pride Alliance Committee. Him and I have had conversation recently about some of the upcoming Pride Alliance events, the Borough's Pride Alliance Committee. And we discussed the possibility of him joining our committee. So I want to welcome him to that committee as well. So looking forward to our continued work together. And please stay tuned. And this goes for all of our parents in our community, our students, our teachers. There will be opportunities for everyone to participate, whether they are focus group opportunities or survey opportunities. There will be opportunities to participate in this committee if you're not a member of the committee. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about is just this recent closure. And I want to give you a little some details about why the decision was made. And once again, I'll just share that none of these decisions are easy. It's something that we discuss, we talk about a lot and talk about our options, but I want to give you some details as to the reasons for it. As I said, as a school district from back to September 8th, we have done everything we can to maintain this in-person hybrid model of ours. We've been able to do this because of the efforts of our administrators, our faculty and staff, our maintenance and custodial staff. Everyone has stepped up to provide a safe environment for our teachers and for our students while they're in school, and they all deserve our thanks and appreciation. I do want to thank our school nurses. I can't say enough about the work that our school nurses have done over the past 3 months. You want to talk about being thrown into the fire with having to, now become medical professionals in regards to COVID, how to learn to contact trace in a very short period of time. And they have done all of it. They have worked day and night to communicate with families. They have stayed on top of our quarantine list of students and staff who are quarantining. I can't thank them enough for what they have done to support this in-person model. Really, again, I appreciate all that they have done, and they deserve our appreciation for sure. With that said, and as I shared in my letter, there were numerous factors that contributed to this decision to begin this closure on Thursday. And it began with our increasing numbers both locally and across the state. And I can tell you that, as the superintendent, I've been very involved in communicating with our health department in Patterson, which is the health department that we communicate with, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Prasad. A matter of fact, I've spoken to him quite a few times recently, as recently as yesterday, in regard to this recent closure. I'm not going to go through the state numbers. Obviously, everyone knows the state numbers are increasing, and we were over 4,000 cases again today. But I can just share that locally in Hawthorne, based on the numbers that I received from Dr. Prasad, over the last 3 weeks, since November 1st, we've had 162 new positive COVID cases, which is more than double what we had from July through the end of October, which was only, 75 cases total. So, obviously things are increasing, and that was one reason. I will also share that we had a large number of individuals, students and staff, who were quarantining in our school district. And again, it's thanks to our nurses that we were able to monitor all of that and keep track of who was out, who was back in, when were they allowed to return. Not an easy task. Another reason for this decision was our nurses' ability to monitor who was getting tested, who was positive, who was eligible to return, those who were required to quarantine, so on and so forth. We've also seen a recent increase in our remote numbers. Just about, not quite all, but 4 of our 5 schools saw an increase in numbers of students who have chosen to go full remote. I can tell you at the high school, about 2 weeks ago, we were at 130 full remote students. And as of today, we're just short of 200 full remote students. So a significant increase in those numbers. The other thing I will share is that, it became a challenge to supervise our classrooms. And that's not a knock on anyone. It's just simply the fact that we had teachers who were quarantining. We had teachers not just quarantining because they were sick, but possibly quarantining because they had family members who were sick, or they had situations where their kids were quarantining. And we also have teachers and staff members who are sick as well. It's not just teachers. So, I can tell you, it affected every area of our school district, whether it be maintenance, custodial staff, bus drivers, again, teachers, all of us. So it became an issue of supervision as well. And I will be honest with you, one of the other challenges that we faced recently is people not being forthcoming with information about being considered close contacts or having tested positive. We found that in a couple of situations where people were in school, and we had found out from others that they were considered close contacts or had family members who were ill, and we were not informed, and now they were coming to school. So again, that's just an idea of the things that are considered when we make a decision such as this one. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not a simple decision. It's something that we really spend a lot of time and make sure it's the right decision for everybody, which is we felt was the case here. So just to clarify again, this closure will begin. Obviously, we are remote tomorrow, as we always are on Wednesdays. The closure will begin on Thursday, November 19th, and run through Friday, December 11th. It's 15 school days. We did decide to do the 2-week period after Thanksgiving in hopes that we would be able to return on December 14th for that period of about 8 days prior to going on winter recess. We felt it would be a nice way for our students and teachers to connect prior to the winter recess. Obviously, that'll all be contingent on numbers of cases in town and across the state, and of course, numbers of staff and people who are quarantining at that time. But our hopes are that we'll be able to return, be in school through Wednesday, December 23rd, and then begin our winter recess on the 24th. Okay. And the last thing I just want to mention, and I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself because I know we'll have a referendum update later in our committee reports, but I'll just jump in and say that we are at the current time, we are going out to bid for our interior doors and windows in all schools throughout the district. That is projects that are going out to bid right now. We're hoping to award those bids in December and begin that work, because that's work that can be done during the school year. Regardless if we're in school or not, it can happen during the school year. And we've also had meetings and discussions about our elementary art and music classroom renovations, which are scheduled to take place this summer as well. So we've already begun those discussions with our architect going forward. All right, and with that said, I'll just wish everyone a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. I know it won't be the same as a normal Thanksgiving, but I do wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. We look forward to hopefully having everyone back on December 14th. Thank you, Mr. Doyle.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spirito, and special thanks for the extra details on the more recent closing that we're going to be going through. I know there was some, I'm sure the community had some questions, and you did a great job providing the details and the process as to what's going on and what you had to go through to make decisions. They're not decisions that we take idly or that we're just shooting from the hip. There's a big process that we must go through. So thanks for sharing that. We're going to keep moving right along. Abby, please take us through curriculum and instruction.
Sure thing. Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommend the following resolutions. CI 1 through CI 5 on page 3, CI 6 through CI 8 on page 4, and CI 36 on page 12 of the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion?
I have a couple questions, Mr. Sprito. I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer them, and I can certainly ask Ms. Pimatello at some other time. For CI3, are we that far behind on edivals that we're already outsourcing? Or are these out of districts?
These are, hold on one second, I can tell you, I was looking at my list here. So to be honest with you, in terms of being far behind, I don't know the answer in terms of the timeline of these evaluations. I can tell you, obviously, you know, with the way the schedule has been this year, we're a little behind because of the schedule and trying to catch kids when they're in school versus not, and you know, being able to conduct some of these evaluations. So I don't know the answer for all of them, but we are, you know, in the process of making sure that we get all these done as quickly as possible.
I hear you, trying to get it done before you go out. But second question, for CI5, the Silvergate prep for home instruction, is that virtual instruction, Mr. Sprito, or are we trying to keep it? Okay, yeah.
That's a virtual situation for that student.
Okay. That was it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Abstain on CI3, yes to everything else.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. Abby, run us through personnel, please.
Sure thing. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. P9 through P13 on page 4, P14 through P22 on page 5, continued on to page 6, P23 on page 6, and on the addendum, P37 through P40 on page 12. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Abstain on P12, yes to everything else.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Alex, you can run us through, please, through finance and administration.
Sure thing. Finance administration, we have a donation. We have a donation from the Hawthorne Rotary. It's for dictionaries for third grade students, valued at $648. We're grateful for their continued generosity with their donations over the years. Action items. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions. F24 on page 6, F25. Moving on to page 7, we have F26 through A30. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Palousse,
yes,
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
yes,
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, moving on to claims. It was my turn once again to take care of the bills this month. I thoroughly went through the bills. Everything was nice and organized. Everything appears to be in order. So in accordance with NJAC 6A:23-2-11, B, C, 3, and C4, I make a motion to approve the bill list for November 2020.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
yes,
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes, with reservations on any northern regional bills.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palousse,
yes,
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Abby, we're back to you for policy.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolution, PO 32 on page 8. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Sanford,
yes,
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palousse,
yes,
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, Anthony, you are up for buildings and grounds.
pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. On the bottom of page 8, BG 33. On the top of page 9, BG 34 and 35. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
With reservation on BG 35. Yes on everything else.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palousse,
Yes,
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
yes,
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, we'll keep rolling here. We're going to move on to our committee and liaison reports. Alex, please take us through finance and administration and New Jersey school boards.
Absolutely. For finance and administration, the committee met last week. We had an in-person meeting. On the agenda were the audit. At this point, as you can imagine, with all the constraints that COVID has brought along, the audit report is not yet done. It should be completed soon. We also discussed the closing of the bonds. The bonds were on the agenda last month. We approved it. It went up for auction. We had 3 responders. three bidders. The lowest one came in at 1.0088%. Interest rates are basically at all-time lows, which works to our benefit at this point. It's going to save us a net of $168,000 over the next 5 years. So that's great news. We also discussed the upcoming budget calendar. Believe it or not, it's that time of the year again. Trudy shared with us the tentative schedule. As in previous years, the administrators, the building administrators, put together their budget. They meet with Trudy after the fact and Brick, and eventually it trickles its way down to the finance committee. So that schedule, that tentative schedule, is already out there. We also had negotiations on the calendar. We're actually going to be meeting as a negotiating committee on Thursday. We have a Zoom meeting scheduled. At this point, the negotiating committee is made up of myself, Tanya, and Anthony, as being the only non-conflicted members at this point. We will report on that once we've had an opportunity to meet. Also, we discussed health insurance this year. There's a new option for during open enrollment, which is called Chapter 44. And Trudy has the numbers. She'll crunch them, and we'll see where we end up as far as how that plays out for our end and what our bottom line is. That's it for finance and administration. Over to School Boards Association. There's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. It's one that's going to be discussing the Open Public Meeting Act during the emergency regulations. It's tomorrow at 11 a.m. Everybody has that in their email. I did sign up for it, and I will share any notes that are worth sharing. That concludes it from my end.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Referendum, I am going to, due to the crossover, we have a lot of crossover with buildings and grounds. I'm going to hold off and let Anthony, I know he's got some stuff in his report, so he'll touch on the referendum. Abby, we're back to you for curriculum and instruction and policy, if you have anything.
Thanks, Mr. President. So the C&I committee met also in person last Tuesday, November 11th at 5:30. The first thing we discussed was the COVID closure and phase 2 transitions. At the time, we had not made the decision to go remote. So we discussed how the elementary school had begun to live stream in the opposite cohort at the beginning of the November month. Additionally, it was brought up that if we had a proactive closure, would we continue the 75-minute period in Lincoln? It was just a question. We then talked about CUSAC, which still big question mark if that's going to happen. We are moving forward with it as if it will happen, but there's still some discussion that it may not happen. So there will be 3 documents that appear on our December 15th agenda that will be necessary for the CUSAC compliance. We also talked about the district assessments, Renaissance being one of them, which was that new benchmarking system that we had purchased back in the spring. Ms. Tribona said that we've gotten really good data from that. It aligns with what teachers are seeing day-to-day performance as well as INRS. The data will be used to create and build tier time in the afternoon. So teachers will use 3 separate 25-minute blocks in that afternoon period to start to work in some of that differentiated time. We also talked about Smart Start assessments, which the state is also going full steam ahead with state assessments this year. They're saying that they will not forego them for a second year in a row. So they offered on a voluntary basis a practice assessment. We did take them up on that. We thought it was going to be good for us to see what they looked like. Good data. They're voluntary. They don't count for anything. So those will be grades 4, 5, 6, 9, and 12. 4 and 5 will take ELA one day and then math the other, obviously remotely. 6, 9, and 12 will take it during their science periods. And then there are also 6 through 10 ELA assessments and 6 through 8 math assessments. So they're being given the year after they normally would have been given the test to see where the gaps are. to adjust the assessments for the spring. Testing dates at the time of this meeting, I don't know if they've changed, are December 1st, 3rd, 4th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Again, virtually. If they were in person, we would have been doing them in person and virtually, depending on how students were. But since those are all days we're not going to be in school, I guess they're virtual. Mr. Sprito provided us with an update on guidance programs, the wellness newsletter. Mr. Sprito shared that he was thinking of making a separate tab on the website just to highlight the wonderful things that are going on with wellness. And additionally, the idea was brought up of possibly offering like a parent university to gauge interest and needs of community members, because let's be honest, social emotional is paramount right now. And as for policy, we did not meet. So that's it, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Anthony, we are up to you for HEF, CPAC, our PTOs, and buildings and grounds, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just got a quick update for HEF and the high school PTO. They're still doing that Wheel of Education. It's been a huge success. And if you could, please tune in on Sunday evenings to win some great prizes while giving back to the students throughout the district in Hawthorne. Again, that's called the Wheel of Education through the Ed Foundation and the high school PTO. Moving on to my buildings and grounds. We're going to start with referendum updates. Roosevelt School, the lower section of the roof has been completed, which is above the locker rooms. It's complete, it's watertight, but there may be some, minor work still being done on the roof. But again, it is complete and watertight. We've also replaced the old heavy lead hatch that used to take two hands to open. Now there's a nice lightweight roof hatch that you can open up with one hand, which is really convenient when somebody's carrying something up. So that's, again, another positive for Roosevelt roof. Moving up to Jefferson School roof. It's also complete and watertight. And again, there may be some last minute items. I think the metal capping still has to go around the parapet walls. And on that roof, they upgraded two roof ladders that were installed there. And I apologize. I did not mention that we met in person on November 10th at 7:30. So if any of this information is a little bit old, maybe some of this work has already been completed. But moving forward, at LMS, the boilers are fully installed and functional. They were in the process of removing an old water tank and installing the new hot water heater. However, the hot water was not running through the building. It turned out that there was a recirculating pump that was running, but it was not pumping properly. And that has since been fixed and is now working properly. Back to Roosevelt School. I believe the last part that we were waiting for, the condenser, a condensate tank, was delivered and installed, or may have been installed at this point. And it was really not a lot of work to be completed, but I think what's holding us up to being able to fire up the new boilers is that we're waiting on PSE&G to increase the gas pressure. The old unit was I think a half pound per pressure, and the new units need pressure to be increased up to a full pound. Again, that's a really minor, I believe it's a minor, adjustment from PSE&G, but they're blaming COVID as the reason why it's taking so long to get out there. The good news is we still have the backup trailer, so there's still heat when necessary at Roosevelt. And we hope that there's not too many more delays, getting that fired up. Going back to the high school, science culinary rooms are ready and just waiting final inspection. Again, the rooms are fully accessible, but just a matter of getting final inspections, and then we can occupy those fully. And Lincoln Middle School and the science labs that were newly renovated. I think the last thing we need to do is just in each of the workstations, the Bunsen burner gas lines have to be pulled through so that the students will have a fully functional workstation. That's all I have for referendum, but I do have a few more things with buildings and ground. There was a sewage pump in the den that went bad, and that because it's a little lower, it has to be actually pumped to remove the waste from down there. And I think it was a contactor that went bad and was not pumping. Luckily, our maintenance workers noticed an issue and caught it before it became a major crisis. And Jimmy Bertolo was able to fix it and save the district some time and money by avoiding having to go to an outside contractor. Also at the high school, there was a while back, there was some 800 amp breakers that had some issues. And originally we had a price of 20,000 plus. But luckily, Marco came to our rescue, made a couple phone calls, some people that he knew, and we were able to, Scott was able to contact, someone who was able to deliver and finish the project for 6,000, which again saved the district substantial money. So thank you, Marco, for that. We also received our second new bus. The first one came in last month. This new bus is also equipped for wheelchair accessibility and 50 passengers. So again, that's our second wheelchair accessible bus that is now delivered. And finally, concluding my report with some PPE funds, we were able to get our air purifiers all delivered to the schools, and they are being installed in the classrooms throughout the district. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Tanya, we'll move along to you for anything on the legislative front.
Sure, there are a few things that were moved forward in the last couple of weeks, so I'm just going to go through them real fast. Over the last week, the General Assembly advanced legislation that would grant school districts relief from their periodic reviews for CUSAC. I know Abby mentioned this earlier. It is still up in the air. At this point, it has been advanced, but in the past, it has also been advanced and the governor has vetoed it. So we are still waiting to hear whether or not it's going to exist. There's been no decision on that yet. According to the sponsor, the postponements established are intended to allow school districts and the New Jersey Department of Education to focus their additional resources on addressing issues related to COVID versus coming up with paperwork and things to send to CUSAC. Both the Senate and General Assembly convened for voting sessions this past Monday. The following measures have received final legislative approval and are now on the governor's desk. School audit delay. This extends the deadline for the completion of the annual audit of the 2019-2020 school fiscal year until January 31st, 2021, and its submission to the commissioner until February 5th, 2021. Chapter 44 amendments allows health insurers to provide certain healthcare benefit plans to local boards of education and eligible employers who do not participate in the school employees' health benefit plans, and modifies employee contributions for the New Jersey Educators Health Plan and its equivalent. In addition, the Senate approved the following school-related measure: budget flexibility. This authorizes school districts to maintain a surplus of 4% for the 2021 and 21-22 school years. Under current law, a school district other than a county vocational school district may only maintain a surplus of 2%. The full General Assembly also approved the following school-related bill, which is now taken up by the Senate, addressing the school nurse shortage, permits a retired school nurse to return to employment during the COVID-19 public health emergency and state of emergency without having to re-enroll in the pension system. A total period of reemployment with any individual Board of Education is not to exceed a 2-year period unless so approved by the Commissioner of Education as being in the best interest of the school district. There are also 2 virtual legislative meetings if anybody's interested. The NJSBA Legislative Committee will be meeting virtually on Saturday, December 5th at 9 a.m. And a meeting of the NJSBA Delegate Assembly is scheduled for November 21st at 9 a.m. also virtually and by telephone. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. Marco, anything to report as our council liaison?
Thank you, Mr. President. As per my review of the council meeting from November 4th, 2020, there were no items pertaining to the Hawthorne Board of Education. However, the mayor reiterated, as will I, the importance of social distancing and wearing a mask, especially as the numbers are rising within our district from COVID-19. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marco. Lou, we're up to you. I know things have been slow with Passaic County School Boards, but anything new, anything to report?
No, the only thing I have, Mr. President, is that the next meeting, I believe, is December 14th. You've probably all been notified. If not, you'll certainly receive another email, I'm sure. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Lou. All right, we're going to move on to our second public be heard portion of the meeting. As a reminder, when submitting questions or comments via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. Otherwise, we will not acknowledge your question. Thank you. So that being said, we'll go to public be heard. I see we have a couple questions in our Q&A box. Mr. Sprito, are you following that Q&A box? You want to?
Absolutely. I could take those. So the question from Mrs. Sciarra in regard to attendance. She just writes that my daughter was supposed to be in school today, but she was concerned about the letter that I sent, so she decided to keep her home and let her participate remotely. She emailed all her teachers and advised them of such, but when she called the school, she advised them that she'd be counted as absent, even though she attended the classes remotely. So just to clarify, so it's a good question. It's come up before, but you understand that the way we handle the process that we go through is students are assigned either a hybrid, as a hybrid student or as a full remote student. And even though you may choose, as you did, to keep your child home and let her participate remotely, which you can do, she still is absent. And the reason is, it's not that we're trying to be difficult, but it's simply a way of, there's no way for us to monitor that if students are constantly switching between remote and in person and remote and in person. It would be very, very difficult for us to manage that. So students are assigned either a hybrid schedule or considered a remote student. So when we look at attendance, they're listed that way. I would just say you don't be concerned with it. I'm sure knowing Kylie, she doesn't have an excessive number of absences, so I wouldn't be concerned. I'm glad that she was able to participate remotely. But again, for students to go back and forth, it just creates a little bit of a challenge for our teachers. So that's why she's marked absent. But again, I wouldn't concern yourself with it. I'm glad she was able to jump in. The next question is from Mrs. Williamson in regard to the decision not to close through January, as it says it can be disruptive to parents to start and stop. In regard to our schedule and our current remote situation, completely understand your question. Look, at the end of the day, what I would say to that is none of this is ideal. A hybrid schedule is not ideal. A full remote situation is not ideal. None of it is ideal. And I know that. However, what I will tell you, and I can share this with you from a personal perspective as a parent, as well as from a perspective as a superintendent, we feel that the more we can have our students in the building and have them, for social and emotional reasons, have them in their building with their peers and meeting with their teachers, the better. I know it's disruptive to go back and forth and to jump in remote to hybrid, to remote to hybrid. What I would say is you do have the option to make your child a full remote student. And the way the calendar falls, if you chose to do that now, they could remain full remote through the end of January. I believe it's January 22nd when the second marking period would come to an end. And then you could jump back in for the third marking period, which begins on January 25th. So, that is an option for parents if they don't want to be going back and forth. That is absolutely an option for you. And again, it is something that we did consider, but we just feel that the opportunity to get our kids back and to have them in the school with their teachers and their peers, we felt outweighs, maybe the confusion or the challenge of, being remote and then being hybrid again. So, I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spirito. How are we doing on any emails? Any emails coming your way?
No, there are currently not emails in the email. Thank you.
Okay. I see nothing else in the Q&A. I'll give it a few more seconds. All right, I don't see any additional questions in our Q&A box. How about those emails, Mr. Spirito?
No, sir. No emails at this time.
Oh, there we go. Something just popped up in our box.
And there's no
It's not really a question and
address or email either, so.
no information provided, so we'll move on. All right, that's going to conclude our public be heard portion. We are going to keep moving forward here. Going to jump into old business. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Carr. Any old business?
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, no, nothing under old business.
Righty. Anthony, any old business?
No, thanks. Not at this time.
Lou, how about you? Any old business?
I'm fine right now, Mr. President. Thank you.
Alex, any old business?
No, thank you.
Bruce, any old business?
No.
Marco
I'm good, Mr. President.
and Abby.
No, thank you.
All right, Abby, right back to you for new business.
I'm good. Thanks.
Marco,
Good to hear.
good to go? Bruce, how about you, Bruce?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Alex, back to you for any new business.
No, none. Thank you.
Lou, any new business?
I'm fine for the moment, sir. Thank you.
All righty. Anthony, any new business?
No new business, but don't forget to ask Tanya this time.
Ah,
Sorry,
I
buddy.
always somehow forget someone. Usually it's Joe. This time it's Tanya. So Tanya, you'll get a double banger, new or old business. Anything?
No, neither one. Thank you very much.
I apologize. I'm working off an old list and you're crossed off on that list because whatever, you weren't there for that meeting. So I apologize. It's the
No
only
worries.
the only one I had in my my binder. My apologies. All right, Anthony, you were good.
Good, thank you.
All right, and Joe, the guy I usually skipped.
Yeah, thank you for not forgetting me tonight.
You're very
No,
welcome.
Thanks.
It's your early Christmas present.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We will jump into our comments, questions, concerns, anything related to the district's business. Right back to you, Joe.
Other than Mr. Sprito, thank you for the job you're doing. It's challenging is not even comes close to the word to describe it. Again, thank you for everything you and your staff is doing.
All right, Joe. Anthony.
You already just said what I was going to say, but I appreciate everybody's effort, teachers, staff, maintenance, and especially Mr. Sprito trying to get us into the classroom as much as possible. I know it's not a easy task, but I definitely appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Okay, Tanya, we're down to you. Anything?
No, I'm sure the whole board echoes those sentiments from Joe and Anthony. So just thank you, everybody, for doing a great job and stay healthy. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Up to you, Lou.
Yeah, once again, I do echo everyone's words. I'm glad we allow Mr. Spirito and his staff to move forward uninhibited with all our faith and trust in all of them. And yes, to everybody, have a healthy, a happy, eat well, and be safe for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Okay, Alex, anything?
Basically echoing the same sentiments, hoping that this couple weeks that we're going to be remote gives the staff, the students, just the community an opportunity to decompress. We had the holidays in between. Here hoping for better days ahead of us. So thank you.
All right, Bruce, we're up to you.
Same sentiments as everybody else, but just take it day by day. Everybody stay safe and well. And like a lot of people have said, enjoy your family this Thanksgiving.
Okay, Bruce. Marco, we're up to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Echoing the same sentiments. Thank you, Mr. Sprito and staff, especially, as I always say, to the parents and students for continuing through this process. This is unreal, but we are all getting through it day by day. I also want to congratulate all those who seek public office and were elected as this current season has been difficult for all of us, but I know we all appreciate those who seek the public office as trustees and councilmen or women. It's a thankless job at times, but we do appreciate those who serve. And lastly, just especially thankful this season to everyone on the board and our family members as we go into this Thanksgiving and safe and healthy Thanksgiving to all.
Okay, Marco. Abby, we're up to you.
Ditto to everything that my fellow board members are saying. And I would also just like to thank the community for their continued patience and support, and remind everyone that many of us up here have children in the schools. Many of us, all of us up here are working parents. It's difficult for everyone. We have the unique opportunity to have a superintendent who lives in town. So he has a lot of skin in the game. The ultimate working parent with students in our district. None of these decisions are made lightly or in a vacuum. We really weigh the odds painstakingly. We are only in on like the tip of it. So I can't even imagine how uncomfortable some of those conversations are, but there is no right or wrong answer. And we just ask for your continued patience and support as we try to make the best decisions with the information that we have. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Okay, thanks, Abby. Mr. Spirito, I do have a slot here for you on my wonderful crisscross sheet here, so I didn't want to forget about you. Any final comments before I close things out?
No, I want to thank the board for your support. As Ms. Goff just said, I agree with her. These decisions are not made lightly. I mean, believe me, we wrestle with these decisions on a daily basis, and it's all we can do is I agree with 100% what she just said, make the decisions, the best decision with the information that we have. I mean, I feel like I've somehow become a health professional here, but we're just doing the best we can to support our students and our families. So thank you for your patience and your support.
All right, thank you, Mr. Spirito. All right, so it's all been said and then some, I think. I do want to wish everybody a happy, healthy Thanksgiving and stay safe. Spend that quality time with your families. And Mr. Spirito, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we do not have any private business tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct. We don't have executive session.
All right, no executive session. So with that being said, I will entertain a motion to exit the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo,
Yes.
Ms. Goff,
Yes.
Mr. Palouse,
Yes.
Mr. Reicher,
Yes.
Ms. Sanford,
Yes.
Mr. Totaro,
Yes.
Mr. Turco,
Yes, be safe.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle.
Yes. All right, that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
everybody.
Take care,
Good night,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Take care. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.